everybody, this is Chad the Gaming Dad here once again on another episode of Dad's Games, and today this is a very special episode. Very special episode. No, not an after-school special, very special episode, but my best friend here, the Gamecube, just had a birthday, and this thing's actually 16 years old, so watch out when you're out driving around because this sucker's behind the wheel now. Anyways, yeah, it's the GameCube's birthday, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The GameCube's actually my favorite of the retro consoles. And yes, it's a 6th gen console. It competed with the Xbox and the PlayStation 2, but it doesn't feel like it to those of us who have been around this long, like me. But believe it or not, this thing's actually pretty retro. So, what I wanted to do today was show you my entire collection of GameCube games and some of my other accessories and things here. This is actually sort of a response to my good friend Dean at Escape to Gaming. I'll put a link to his channel down below. He just got a Wii, a 1st gen Wii that plays GameCube games, and he's looking to get a GameCube as well, but there's a lot of people out there that missed out on this thing, and before the prices get even more extreme than they are already, a lot of these games are getting pretty pricey already, but before they get any crazier, if you're thinking about collecting for the GameCube, let me just show you what I've got, and I can give you a couple insights as to what these games are and maybe some of these cool little accessories for the thing. It's a great machine. Alright, so first up is the little lunchbox that could the GameCube itself, and mine actually has this down here on the bottom. It's the Game Boy Player, Game Boy Advance Player, actually, and that thing is separate. You take that off, screw it on, and it actually comes with a CD. This is a really strange little box. It's not even a full-size box or whatever, but this thing won't work. Won't play Game Boy Advance games without this CD. It says it right there on it. Game Boy Player. You actually put this in here, put in your Game Boy Advance games, and you're good to go. I believe it also plays older Game Boy games too, like the first Game Boy all the way up, Game Boy Color, all that kind of stuff. But it's really awesome. So, if you're wondering what this part of it is down here, that's Game Boy Player. But the rest of it here is my actual GameCube that I've had since back when they came out. This thing didn't sell terribly, but it didn't do very great either. Let me look over here. It says just under 13 million of these were sold in the US, which is a lot less than the PlayStation 2, primarily, I believe, and a lot of other people too, because right in here, the discs that it uses, it's all the bigger they are. Can't play a DVD on this. All you can play are these little proprietary discs from Nintendo, and that was one of the main things that held it back. These discs don't hold as much data. There's Super Mario Sunshine for you. These don't hold as much data as a big DVD would that they had at the time, and it won't play DVDs. So this was just a gaming machine only, but again, there's some really good stuff on here that you can't find other places. You did have to use memory cards with it. Got a couple of them here. They plug right into the front like this. And these things will work on a Wii. A 1st generation Wii that has the backwards capability for GameCube games. You can use these on it. And you can also use your standard controllers, like this one, the wired controller. And my favorite is the Wavebird. This here's the Wavebird. Take a look at it. It's the same thing, basically exactly the same as the other one. It's just got a little on-off switch here because you put batteries in it. Takes a couple AA's, and surprisingly, they last a long time. You don't really have to replace them too much, but I still recommend some rechargeables. But keep in mind that this is not Bluetooth. It's actually radio frequency, like RF. And so you got this little adapter here, which is the receiver, and then you have the Wavebird itself. The receiver goes into, say, player 1, right? You plug it in just like a controller. It sits just like that, okay? And then you'll know that you're sending and receiving because there's a little light here, and there's a little light on the actual controller itself. So there's a dial at the bottom. you pick a channel, basically. I have mine set on number 1 because there's no interference in my house on number 1. Set this to number 1, set this to number 1, and now you're playing wirelessly. This was actually one of the very first controllers that worked this way, that was wireless, that wasn't, you know, they had wireless controllers before that were kind of like a TV remote, where you'd have to aim the controller at the actual system, but if you aimed away, it wouldn't work. This thing works all over the place. You can walk all around, and it works great. It's not, like I said, it's not Bluetooth. It's RF, so it's radio frequency. That's why there's a bunch of different numbers on the dial. A couple other things I got here. There's a couple games. One I'll show you here in a little bit. Odama requires the use of a microphone. This is the GameCube microphone. And the way this works is you have your clip, put the clip right here onto, yeah, there it goes. You clip it onto your controller like that, and then you put your microphone here so that you can yell into the game. And this actually kind of defeats the purpose of the Wavebird, because this one is not wireless. You have to plug this into, actually it plugs into a memory card slot. It doesn't plug into a game, you know, like a game controller port. It goes into a memory card slot. Haven't really found a whole lot of use for the microphone, but it came with the game Odama, which I'll show you here in a second. And cool thing to have. Definitely something that's interesting. You know, Nintendo always likes to do crazy stuff, right? So, the next thing about the GameCube is how you can hook it up. Now, the later models didn't have this, but the earlier models, if you're going to buy a GameCube, check the back. Make sure, if you want to do this, that you have one of the models that doesn't just have the regular analog AV out. It says it right here, analog AV out. So that's your regular wires that you would hook up an N64. I think some of the Super Nintendos hook up with this thing too. But it just basically spits out your, yeah, this one has S-Video on it too. But it basically spits out your audio signals, the red and white, and then the yellow for the video. Put that in there. So you can play this on any old TV that will accept this stuff. But also back in the day, they came out with TVs. They were starting to become more popular, these HD TVs that could do progressive scan and that could do things like component video. Component video, not just composite. Composite puts all the colors into just one thing. This one splits them up into blue, red, and green. And yes, this right here is the ever so hard to find and getting more expensive by the day GameCube cable for this. This is what they're calling their digital audio video out. It has a special plug on the end of it. And then this thing in here, I think there's a chip, microchip or something in there that allows the signal to go through. That's why this is so expensive, because only Nintendo made this, and you have to, you basically have to find one, because very few people bought one. I had an HD TV at the time when I had my GameCube, and I heard about this. I actually had to order it from Nintendo and have it mailed to my house. I think it cost all of about $30 when I bought it. And I still use it to this day. And the games that you'll see in this video, I'm going to show some gameplay of some of them, will be recorded using these cables going into modern day Elgato into my computer. So if you want the best possible signal with just these cables, I know there's some other things that came out. I know Metal Jesus talked about an adapter that somebody made that they plug into here, but that thing is dangerous because it did short out his system and killed it, although they're trying to work on that. Check out his video, but this is a surefire way to get your progressive scan. It's not going to be as good as going to an HDMI, but this is how they did it back in the day. But again, this particular cable, what's it now, like $300 or something? It's ridiculous. It's crazy. Kind of been wanting a PS4 Pro. Now, I think I'll keep the cables. All right, so the crazy thing about this is when you hook it up, even though you got this ultimate cable here, you can't just hook it up with this. You still have to use this one for the audio and this one for the video. So the back of your GameCube starts to look kind of ridiculous because I don't even have the power plugged in right now, but there's a power one here and then you got your audio and your video, and you got to plug everything in with 2 different cables. It turns into quite an octopus. It really does, but worth it. I'll show you a comparison here in a little bit, because I remember when I first got this cable, going from interlaced to progressive, it's not a life changer, but it does look a lot better, especially for stuff like Metroid and a lot of these games. If you look on the back of them, it'll say back on the back whether or not it uses it. This one here, 1080 Avalanche, it does have progressive scan compatible, and so that means that if you have this cable, it'll take advantage of it. Not all of them do, but it does look cleaner even if they don't take advantage of it. I think so. So, with all of that said about the hardware, I love this thing. I'm going to go ahead and hook everything up, and then we'll go through and I'll tell you about some of these games here and let you know what I think. So if you're starting to collect, you too can go after some of these greats. All right, everybody. So I got my Super Mario Sunshine running in the background there. Just keep that on, but let's go through some games here. First off, I'm going to show you, I don't know, just a few Nintendo games, and then we're going to get into a few different categories and get back into some Nintendo games towards the end. So let's take a look here. You already saw this one, 1080 Avalanche. This is a really great game where you are a snowboarder. The real claim to fame in this one, reason why they call it Avalanche, is there is a mode where basically you can trigger avalanches in this game and have to outrun them on your snowboard. At the time, super cool effects with all kinds of snow coming down and chasing you down the mountain and everything. It was a real good time. If you like games like SSX and other snowboarding games, things like that, then this one's pretty cool. It's an early one. It says on here that this was 2003, so this is an early one, but definitely good for the GameCube. Next one I've got here is Battalion Wars. This one, a lot of people took a look at this one because if you've heard of Advance Wars, there's games on the Game Boy Advance where it's sort of a turn-based, tactical kind of thing with little guys. This one also is tactical, but it's more of a real-time type of deal. It's a real-time strategy, and you have all kinds of different troops and things that you must move around the map and go after people. Really fun little shooter. Star Fox Adventures. There's a lot of people on the fence for this one. Not real sure that they like this because I think it was supposed to be something else. I think, what was it, Dinosaur Planet? Some other crazy game, and then they came along and said, well, let's go ahead and put a little Star Fox on there. It is a decent game. You just have to put out of your head that it's not really, really Star Foxy. It's a kind of a completely different game with Star Fox on it. But again, it is made by Rare, so that's pretty cool. Moving on, we got another one here that is going up and up in price. It's Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. This game is another in a long line of great Fire Emblem games. If you enjoy, again, this is turn-based strategy type of a game. Fire Emblem has always been really awesome on the handhelds, and then they put it over onto the GameCube. There is one on the Wii as well. Very expensive. This one, the Wii one, is pretty expensive as well. They do have one coming out for the Switch coming up pretty soon, but it's not really... It's a Fire Emblem Warriors game. It's kind of like when Zelda did it when they had Hyrule Warriors. So I'm a little bit excited about it, but not as much as if it would have been a true strategy game on the Switch. But Fire Emblem, if you can find this one for like less than $100, you'll be lucky. Chibi Robo! Ooh, Chibi Chibi! Another weird game. That's why I love the GameCube so much, because I like stuff that's interesting, that's unique, that's different than what you get everywhere else. These games here you can't get on other things. This is a Nintendo, first-party type of game, but my goodness, this game's just weird. You're this little robot guy, and you run around cleaning up the house and all kinds of little tasks and stuff, but very tough to explain exactly what Chibi Robo's all about. But again, getting pricey. If you can grab it, do so. It's a good one. Here's Pokemon Gale of Darkness XD. This was more of a story Pokemon game, but of course there is also battles and things like that. If you're into Pokemon, you already know about this. If you're not into Pokemon, I don't know if this is going to change your mind and suddenly make you a huge Pokemon fan. But, again, pretty good game. Usually you find that one somewhere around $50. Here's one of the best games on the GameCube, period, and that's Paper Mario 1,000-Year Door. This is Paper Mario on the GameCube done really well. This game is long, lots and lots of detail. I love the art style, all the way that they make everything look super colorful and cartoony, and there's humor in it. There's a lot of reading. You're going to have to read a lot to play this game, but if you've ever played any of the other Paper Mario games or you like the RPG style stuff, this one is a really good one to grab. Highly recommend it. Basically, the Paper Mario series started off as Super Mario RPG on the Super Nintendo, and then the N64 had Paper Mario, and then we have it here. They even put it on the Wii and some stuff on the 3DS that people didn't necessarily like so much, but anyway, Paper Mario, GameCube, awesome. Now, when the GameCube first launched, they didn't have a Mario game. They had Luigi's Mansion. Yeah. Must not have been the Year of Luigi just one time. They must have had Year of Luigi back then, too. This game's really cool, very unique. It's tough to explain, but Luigi has a ghost-sucking vacuum. It's kind of like Ghostbusters, it really is. And he has to go through this mansion and save Mario, and there's different ghosts along the way that have different traits, things that you have to do to stun them before you can suck all the little hearts out of them so that you can capture them and things like that. Wow. A lot of these Nintendo games are tough to explain quickly because they're just too crazy. I'm going to definitely go back and do more lengthy reviews on some of these, but Luigi's Mansion, you shouldn't miss out on that. That's a really good one. All right, so next up, I've got a few games from Capcom, and the story about this is, the GameCube was having trouble getting third-party support. This isn't a new thing for Nintendo. They've been dealing with this for a while. So they teamed up with Capcom. Capcom was going to bring them 5 exclusive games only for the GameCube and try to help them out, right? Well, one of those 5 games was canceled completely, and the other 4 were made, put out, but only one of them remained an actual exclusive to the GameCube, and that's this one right here, product number 3, PN03. PN03 is a crazy game where you're this cyborg girl running around fighting, and it's, again, tough to explain. I keep saying that over and over again. Have you ever seen a game like this? I have not. This is like a unique, one-of-a-kind. Definitely not widely acclaimed. It's got some positive, some negative reviews, but definitely worth giving a shot. It's super fun. Something cool. So that one actually stayed exclusive to the GameCube, probably because it didn't get the greatest reviews in the world. But the next one up, Beautiful Joe. Beautiful Joe is an amazing game, all in the cartoon art style, and it's kind of comic book style, anime, a little mix of everything. Very, very awesome. They even had a sequel, Beautiful Joe 2. Beautiful Joe 2 was not part of the Capcom 5. This one still says only for GameCube on it, but they did wind up making it for other systems as well. But either one of these, Beautiful Joe 1 and 2, highly recommended games. Go ahead and try these out. These things are really cool. Another one of my favorites on the GameCube, just because it's so out there. I mean, the guy that made this game goes by the name of Suda51. Suda51. Ugh. And this game made me a fan of Suda. He went on after this to make stuff like No More Heroes. I think there's another one that he's working on for the Switch. He had Heroes of the Damned and some other crazy games. Like I'm sure I'm not remembering all of them, but when you put in a game that's made by Suda51, you better be ready for some like craziness in the head, because this guy is out there in a very good way. Killer 7, there's 7 different killers, and you have to hunt them all down. It says here, step into the mind of an assassin, but it's not first-person shooter, but it's not necessarily on rails. It's like you move in chunks, and it's very stylized, very crazy. I mean, it's got a mature rating, and it deserves it. There's all kinds of nutty stuff going on in here, but definitely check this one out if you get a chance to find Killer 7. I think they did put this out. Like I said, this was one of the 5, but it didn't remain exclusive. I think it wound up on the PS2 as well. So don't miss out on Killer 7. Killer 7's super good. All right. Now, I'm mad at myself and I'm kicking myself for this, but back in the day, I didn't collect and save every game that I bought. Every now and then I would trade stuff in. And this game actually is for the Wii, Resident Evil 4. But initially, when it first came out, it was part of the Capcom 5, and it was supposed to be exclusive to the GameCube. And for a time, it was. I did trade in my GameCube version to get this because, well, it looks a little bit better, and it has the option of using either the Wiimote or you can use the classic controller. So you can do it with just a controller, or you can actually aim with the Wiimote, which I think is kind of fun. A lot of people think it's just stupid and gimmicky, but to each their own, I guess. So yeah, Resident Evil, a GameCube game, but also on the Wii. Very, very cool. Plus, I mean, when it comes to Resident Evil, I have this game, Resident Evil 4. I probably bought it like 3 or 4 different ways because got it on my PS4 and the HD version and this and that. It's a, you know, they just sell you a whole bunch of stuff. All right. Next up, what I've got here are a group of games made by none other than Sega. Sega! The thing that was really cool about Sega and GameCube was that the Dreamcast had just kind of been released and died very quickly. And this was the first time that Sega was putting out stuff on the GameCube with any kind of regularity, and like making Sonic games and stuff for the GameCube. Are you kidding me? Putting Sonic on Mario's machine? Blasphemy! It's crazy. So anyway, let's take a look at these games real quick. This one's nothing big to home run about. Nothing big to write home about. Home Run King. I like baseball games. I think this was one that I bought for $1 just because I like GameCube, and it's all right. It's made by Sega. It's kind of an arcadey type of a baseball game. But these two right here are games that you should not miss. These are really, really great. Super Monkey Ball 1 and 2. Start off with number 1 if you can. But these things are great. You control the floor. Imagine there's a ball sitting on top of here, and I need to roll it in a certain pattern. You basically control the floor and make the ball go where you want it to go. It's insanely difficult, but fun, rewarding, all that at the same time. There's tons of mini games. The first one has monkey bowling, monkey golf. The other one has golf, baseball, soccer, boat race, bowling. Oh, ridiculous. It's super, super fun, and absolutely recommend Monkey Ball 1 and 2. So yep, here it is. Sonic on the GameCube. Sonic Adventure DX, the director's cut of Sonic Adventure, which was a GameCube game. And so was, I don't know if this was on, not GameCube, on a Dreamcast game. Shadow the Hedgehog, another one here. A lot of people don't like this one because, you know, Shadow has a gun and stuff, but it's a big platformer with sort of Sonic stuff in it and everything. I don't know that this one was on the Dreamcast. This was not. Another thing here from Sega, more Sonic. Of course, this is the Mega Collection. You know, we've got Sonic Mania now, but here you got Sonic 1, 2, 3, Sonic and Knuckles, 3D Blast, Spinball, and the Mean Bean Machine, all on one nice little GameCube disc. No doubt about it. Grab some of those if you find them. They're good. And the real standout here is the one that's only on the GameCube, made by Sega, is Billy Hatcher. Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg. And that sounds as weird as it actually is. You're this guy, Billy Hatcher, and you roll around an egg. It's a platforming game, sort of in the style of like a Rare game or something, but you just have to give this a try. Take a look at this. Maybe check out some videos. Heck, maybe one of these days I'll do a video on it. But this game is very highly recommended. Not necessarily the cheapest thing in the world because, again, it is a GameCube exclusive made by Sega. All right, moving right along. Got some more games here that are third-party games that I would say are real standouts. I got a pile over here that I'll go through real quickly that are just sort of, you know, third-party whatever games if you find them cheap. But these ones here are good ones. First off, I've got Soul Calibur 2. And in this version, you get to play as Link. I think in some of the other ones, there was like a Darth Vader one and maybe a Yoda one, I think, on PlayStation 2 and Xbox. But here you get Link, and it's a really awesome version of Soul Calibur 2. It does take advantage of the progressive scan, and really great fighting game. I don't know if everybody's going to like this one, but I always kind of liked it. Pool Paradise. It's a pool game, but it has a story. You have to beat each other, like pool shark or pool player or whatever, to move around this island. And it was one of those games that if it hooks you in and gets you playing and makes you keep playing and keep playing, then that's a good one for me, and I like the Pool Paradise. Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee. It says here, IGN says this is one of GameCube's very best. Really cool game where you are fighting as Godzilla and all the other kaiju. Yeah, what do we got back here on this? It says Rodan, Mecha King Ghidorah, Godzilla 90s, Hedorah. Gosh, I can't read all these things, but if you like fighting, and while you're fighting the other guy, smashing the crap out of an entire town and knocking buildings down and everything, Destroy All Monsters Melee is for you. Now, quick story. I showed you a second ago the Pokemon XD. Remember I told you that I had traded in games in the past, and Pokemon XD and this one right here, Ikaruga. This thing, I traded both of these things into GameStop. I can remember doing it. I don't remember what I traded them for, but they gave me $15 for each one. So I got $30 total to trade the two games in, and in order to buy them back, they were $50 a piece. So go figure that. But Ikaruga, one of the best vertical shooting games that you can play. It even lets you take your TV, which normally sits like this. If you have a way to take your TV and move it vertically, it'll let you do vertical shooter on the TV, going sideways and stuff. Very hard. I can't make it past like the first 2 levels, but nevertheless, very fun. I know you can get this on, I think, Xbox Live Arcade, which is why I traded it in back in the day, because I had it on Xbox Live Arcade. But as I started collecting stuff, I really wanted to have this back on my GameCube. This is one of my favorites. All right, next up, I wouldn't normally put PacMan World 2 as one of the good games on the GameCube to grab, but this one has Pac-Man Versus in it. And Pac-Man Versus was something that they came up with the help, I think, of Miyamoto, where on this disc, you've got Pac-Man World 2. You can play through that whole platforming Pac-Man game, but then there's also a side to it where you have to have a special link cable in a Game Boy Advance. You plug that into your GameCube as well as 3 other controllers, and then what happens is there's a Pac-Man board on the screen, but all it is these like 3 different circles, and the 3 people that you're playing against are 3 different ghosts, but they only have a little window that they can see as it moves around like this, around the different area of the Pac-Man playfield, and they're chasing you down, but you, if you have the Game Boy Advance in your hand, you see the entire screen just like you would play Pac-Man normally, and you get to be Pac-Man chased by your friends who are the actual ghosts. They did release this on the Namco Museum on the Switch. I recommend getting it on the Switch if you have a Switch, because I have played this with Kazi and Game Digger, and just having the three of us was so fun. And it does on the Switch let you use the Joy-Cons as individual controllers and stuff. But this one, I'm so happy to have this in my GameCube collection because it's such a unique thing. All right, moving on. So 3 of my all-time favorite games on the GameCube. Coming up next, we have Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes. Yes, this was a remake of the stellar Metal Gear Solid from the PlayStation 1, and the problem with the GameCube was very apparent in this game because it has 2 discs, and at one point in the game you're walking down a corridor and then it goes, put in disc 2. You're like, okay, cool, disc 2, keep playing. You walk for a while and you're like, ah, crap, I forgot, I gotta go back and get that thing. You turn around, you walk back, put in disc 1. Put in disc 1. You walk, you go get what you had to get, you come back, put in disc 2, you keep going. That only happened at that one place, so I'll forgive it for that. But if you like Metal Gear, especially Metal Gear Solid, this is the way to play. It has better graphics. It does the first-person gun type of a thing. It's not all third-person. You can switch back and forth. Let's see if there's anything else on here. Man, yeah, first-person mode was great. The updated graphics was great. This one does also use the progressive scan. If you can find this one for a decent price, I haven't looked it up recently, but I know it's not going to be super cheap. But Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes, don't miss out on that one on a GameCube if you can find it.
Thanks again for watching. If you liked that video, please press like and subscribe. I love hearing from you guys, so leave your comments and any suggestions down below. Remember, there's tons of other gamers out there just like you and me, and they also know that you never outgrow video games. Feel free to share these videos all over social media, Twitter, Facebook, or whatever you use. This channel is for all of us. Let's make sure they know that they are not alone. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.